Hello, gamers. Today, we're going to create a new scene, bring in some art for our main character, and create a simple script that's going to move our character across the screen. First of all, by default, it's going to load up something called sample scene. We're going to make a new scene. So go ahead to your scenes folder. Okay, so you can't see it, just click here on this triangle where it says assets, go to scenes, and then go ahead and right click. Go to create scene and then scene. It's going to come up and it's going to say new scene. Let's call this main scene. Okay, press enter. I'm going to load this up. Okay. By default, also typically it's going to come up and the game tab is going to be active. Go ahead and click on scene so that we can actually do stuff with this game. We're going to go then to our art folder and we've got count them, three different characters that we can have as far as our player character. I'm going to go with Ducko. But I also like Marshmallow Man. That's pretty cool too. But you can go with Ducko, or if you want to bring in your own character, that is okay too. But for now, I'm just going to do this tutorial with Ducko. All right, once I have the folder that says Ducko, I'm going to go ahead and click and drag this sprite. So if I click here, you can see this is information about how I brought in the sprite, but it really doesn't matter right now. We're going to go ahead and click and drag this duck guy to our project hierarchy. Since this is a 2D game, it's going to place it on our X and Y axis. So you look at it, our X axis is right and left, our Y axis is up and down. And since this is a 2D game, we're not going to be playing with our Z axis. Okay. Um, so from here, we're going to go and add a folder for our scripts. And then we're going to create a script that's going to just make this guy zoom along the x-axis. Okay, so to do that, we're going to create a folder. Make a folder, we're going to go ahead to our assets folder. We're going to right click. We're going to go to create and then folder. We're going to call this scripts and enter. Okay, let's go into this folder. From here, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new script called player controller. So let's go ahead and right click. Let's go to create, scripting, mono behavior script. Now, at this point, it's really important that we name it what we want to name it, because if we don't, if we change the name, we will have to do something down the road. So let's go ahead and let's just call this player controller. I'm going to do capital P, capital C, but it doesn't really just stay consistent as far as like how you capitalize things. So we'll go. I'm going to say here player controller, no space after the R. Press enter. Okay, that is going to create a file. Okay, that is going to be what's called a C# script that we are going to attach to our player character so that they can move. Let's go ahead and double click on our player controller. Now this should open up VS Code. I'm going to go ahead and just dismiss these errors. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and look over this script. So first of all, we have here the class is called player controller. If this does not match what we have in Unity, you're going to encounter a problem. We then have whatever we want to happen when the object first kind of like comes into the game. And then we have what's here is called update. Now this is going to be here if you've ever heard of like 60 FPS. Every 60 times a second, we want something to happen here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to move this player character across the screen. So first of all, we're going to establish what's called a variable. Okay, so we have to declare what's called a type. So in this case here, we're going to create a vector. Let me zoom in here a second. Vector 2. Okay, so a vector is going to be sort of like some sort of information as far as location. So vector 2 is going to refer to X and Y information. So we're going to say vector2, and then we're going to give it a variable name called position. Really cool variable name. And we're going to set that to be equal to whatever the player's current position is. So transform dot position. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we are going to establish, and every time we end a line in C#, we're going to go ahead and do a semicolon. Okay, that's just how we indicate, like in English, we indicate that something is done like a sentence is done by a period. In coding, we're going to indicate with a semicolon. So what does this mean? Transform.position, that should ring a bell. If we go to Unity and we click on the player character, we see here this transform component. What's going to happen is 60 times a second, or every frame, it's going to take the information that is here. So right here it says x is equal to 4.28, y is equal to 0.05. So 60 times a second, we're going to have a variable that's going to hold the information of what is in the X box here and what is in the Y box here, okay? On the next line, we're going to go ahead and we're going to say, I'd like to update the position on the X axis. So we're going to say here, position dot X is going to be equal to the current position plus 0.1 F. Now, what does this mean? So we had this variable here, position, and I know I said it contains two pieces of information. What is on the x-axis and what is on the y-axis. This is going to go ahead and say whatever the current position is on the x-axis, I want you to change it to by 0.1. So if we look here, you can see it's 4.28. So 60 times a second, it's going to go. It's going to increment by was it 0.1 or 0.01? 0.1. So 60 times a second, it's going to go 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. Okay. We're going to then go ahead and update its current position. So transform dot position. We're going to set that to the variable position. Okay, so this is basically this line here, line 14, establishes an initial position of where the character is. We then update that variable by 0.1, and then we update that character's position by whatever the current value of position. So 60 times a second, it's going to go 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. So we're going to go ahead and save the script. We can go here to File, Save, or Control S. And then what we're going to do is let's go back to Unity. And hopefully we have no errors, no errors, no errors. Correct, good. And we're just going to go ahead and click and drag that script to the player character. Now we're going to go ahead and you see here that has been attached. Now this is not very exciting. We're going to go ahead and click on the play button and hopefully we'll see this. He just zooms off the screen. So if your character zooms off the screen, you are good to go. I wish you the best of luck. Great stuff.